Welcome back to the show, folks. This is the Monday mashup over on the upper tier. If you could head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button, and of course, drop a like on the video. Good show for you coming tonight. We're going to do a review of all the weekend's action. We've got a mix, of course, of Premier League and FA Cup action, but some great points to talk about that came out of this weekend, from Conte's outburst to Fulham's meltdown, Arsenal doing the business at the Emirates, and various other stuff in between. As always, we appreciate you in the chat. If there's anything you want me to talk about, hit me up. This is a kind of a solo show that I do, so you're more than welcome to hit me up with anything you'd like me to discuss or get my comment on. It's not a problem at all. We will begin shortly now with our Premier League and FA Cup review of the weekend. Henry's in the comments early. How are you, Henry, my man? He joined me on the Shankly sessions there the other night. And he's also said, well done on winning the rugby. Absolutely. And we're going to quickly divert to that before we start. And we're going to say a big shout out to the Irish rugby team winning the Grand Slam and taking all the spoils with it. A tough old battle against England the other day, but an interesting moment when Coach Farrell embraced his son who plays for England and stuff like that. And of course, we can't say enough about this man, Johnny Sexton. What a servant he's been to Irish rugby, and what a player he's been as well. And he's been incredible, not just in terms of Ireland, but in terms of the rugby game. He has elevated it to a new level, record point scoring, all this kind of thing. And what a warrior he is to a Mendy wear the other day. Fantastic win, and great as well to win it on home soil. So hats off to the Irish rugby team on winning the Grand Slam, Triple Crown, and all the other spoils that goes with it. It was a clean sweep on the day. And of course, a big shout out as well to all the Irish who travelled over to Cheltenham last week as well. Absolutely unbelievable week for Irish horse racing as well, as it always is. Cheltenham, the Irish own Cheltenham, regardless of what people think. And to see Willie Mullins with those winners and stuff like that, and it was just an incredible emotional week for everyone. Fantastic as well. So hats off to all the jockeys, trainers, owners, and all who were successful last week at Cheltenham. Hats off to you guys as well. What a week for Irish sports. Right, let's get into this review, which is sure to generate a little bit of interest. And we started off a Friday night, Nottingham Forest versus Newcastle. Newcastle kind of buoyed by results. They've bounced back somewhat. Darren did mention it a few weeks ago. He could see Newcastle having a big say in the top four race once they bounced back with a few results. So it was great to see it. Even as a Liverpool fan, but a big win. But it took a late penalty by Isaac to claim the spoils. A moment of madness by Nottingham Forest, and they were so unlucky because they were competitive up to that point. Although Newcastle were strong, but Nottingham Forest were doing bits. Game got a little bit tetchy as well at times towards the end. So no surprise really that the penalty came. Also, Anderson had a goal ruled out. He had only really come on the pitch, I think, and he had a goal ruled out in 64 minutes. Shelby got booked, Gibbs White got booked, Keller Navas got booked, and Lodi got booked, Dan Burn got booked, Emmanuel Dennis got booked, and he also grabbed the goal for Forest. Forest had taken the lead early on through Emmanuel Dennis. And rightly so. And then they bounced back. Isaac with the goal just on the verge of half time. Went on a half time 1-1, came out, and then they robbed the spoils in injury time. That was Friday. Getting into Saturday. Saturday was a busy day, of course. It is a reduced schedule because so many teams involved in the FA Cup, so they weren't involved in Premier League action. But Aston Villa versus Bournemouth in the Premier League was a big game for Villa as they try and move up into the top half of the table. And for Bournemouth, it was a big one as well, still in the relegation zone. And they would have been buoyed after the win against Liverpool, but came out. And of course, Douglas Luiz got the goal in 7 minutes, which set the tone really for the day. But still a tight game right up till the 80th minute. And then Ramsey scored in the 80th minute, and Buendia then finished it off in the 89th minute. But a big win there for Villa. Brentford versus Leicester was a 1-1 draw. Brentford had a man sent off, I think, in the dying stages. Baptista got a second yellow and a red in the 92nd minute. But the goals came from Jensen on 32 minutes, giving Brentford the lead. And that's when you were kind of fearing for Leicester. But they did come back. Harvey Barnes on 52 minutes with the equaliser and James Maddison with the assist. Ran out 1-1. Brentford, they could have done with the win. It would have propelled them into that kind of definitely into a top four race, which is unbelievable. Imagine Thomas Frank and Brentford in a top four race, and they're not out of it yet, but a win would have been unbelievable. For Leicester, lifted them, kind of kept them out of the drop zone, but still, teams below them, West Ham have a game in hand. So yeah, Leicester in serious trouble there, and I think we could soon see Leicester maybe pull that trigger that Crystal Palace did with Patrick Vieira. Next up was Southampton and Tottenham. An absolute unbelievable game, which caused the outburst, of course, that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. Massive outburst by Antonio Conte. Had to go with all the players, had to go at the management as well, and the owners, even though afterwards denied doing that. But we could see what the agenda is there, and we know the writing is on the wall and has been for a while. But the game started off, Poirot got a goal just before half time, 45+1. But right after half time, Southampton hit back with a goal. Shea Adams with the goal, and of course, one that will not please Spurs fans, of course, Theo Walcott with the assist, ex-Gunner. Harry Kane made it 2-1 from Kulusevski with the assist, and then they thought they were home and host on 74 when Perisic scored to make it 3-1. But shortly after that, 3 minutes later, Theo Walcott popped up with a goal, so a goal and an assist, to make it 3-2 to Spurs. And then in the Dying Amber's 93rd minute, a penalty, needless penalty given away. Spurs again, architects of their own downfall, and upstepped that man, James Ward-Prowse. Big fans of him on this podcast. We've always spoke about him in terms of an England spot and stuff like that. Steps up, picks up the ball, boom, 3-3, Spurs dropping the points. Another game, another absolute madness as well. This is a game where I didn't think there'd be a whole lot of goals in it, but I think when we spoke about it on Thursday, we did say it could be kind of end to end. But it finished 4-2 to Leeds. Otto and Cunha with the goals for Wolves on 65 and 73. Harrison getting Leeds off early with a goal on 6, and Ayling on 49, and Christensen on 62 made it 3-0 to Leeds. They looked like they were home and host. Dropped 2 quick goals on 65 and 73 to Wolves, made it 3-2. Bit of nerves there, I would have imagined, from Leeds. But then the man Rodrigo popped up 90+7 to make it 4-2. Leeds taking all the points, giving them a little bit of a reprieve and moving them up the table. Wolves and Leeds both still in trouble there. Relegation battle really coming down all the way up to 12th right now at the moment. So that was Leeds and Wolves. And then you look at Chelsea and Everton, played out a 2-2 draw. I'm sure Graham Potter would have been very disappointed in this. Chelsea had a lot of chances in this game. Joe Felix taking the lead on 52. Decore equalising on 69. Havertz with a penalty on 76 to make it 2-1. But up stepped the boy Sims on 89 to make it 2-2. I'm sure Potter would have been discussed, Chelsea would have been discussed. And of course, we're going to talk about Todd Boehly's reaction leaving Stamford Bridge, about how it was a shit effing game. But we will talk about that later on, of course. The only FA Cup action on Saturday was the evening game, was Man City versus Burnley. Finished 6-0 to Man City. As good as Burnley are doing in the Championship, and they're really pulling up stuff there at the moment, they're going to head back to the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. Doing fabulous work there under Vincent Kompany at the moment. But this Man City side just look like they're finding their rhythm right at the right time in the season, as they also tried to hunt down Arsenal. There's an 8-point gap there now, and of course we will discuss that as well. But Haaland getting another hat-trick. It's been a season of Haaland hat-tricks and record breaking. The guy is an absolute machine. And not to mention his counterpart, Julian Alvarez, who was also having a very good season, picked up 2 goals on 62 and 73. And then it was rounded out by Palmer on 68. And that was it, really. 6-0 to Man City. An absolute trance. Burnley were doing okay. They were holding out right till the 32nd minute when Haaland got the first goal. And I think once City score, you kind of have to open up a little bit. And once you open up a little bit, we know the damage they can do. But City through, and they will face, if I'm right, I have it here somewhere. Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. City will face Sheffield United. City are going to face Sheffield United, and Man United are going to face Brighton in the next round of the Cup. We'll get on to Sunday. One Premier League game, the others were postponed because of the FA Cup. But it was Arsenal versus Crystal Palace at the Emirates. This was an interesting game insofar as this had all the makings of a potential banana skin, but obviously didn't work out that way. But a couple of things I want to sort of highlight here. Crystal Palace were well in this game until that first goal went in from Martinelli on 28 minutes. Crystal Palace had created a number of chances. They had worked Ramsdale as well. Wilfred Zaha also hit the post. But Martinelli cropping up on 28 minutes. Now, this goal is purely down to Wilfred Zaha. Ball played into him in midfield. Lazy approach, loses the ball, doesn't track back, jogging back like he doesn't care. Horrendous, really. And I look at Wilfred Zaha, and he's in last year people were valuing him at 70 million, looking at moves and all this kind of thing. Wilfred Zaha to me is a luxury player that Crystal Palace can ill afford to have on their team. They need work rate in there. I don't know what the boy Eze has done to be not included in the starting lineup. He was absolutely sensational last season. But Crystal Palace looking real trouble at the moment. And only for some of those points they have accumulated through draws, they'd be in real trouble. Real trouble, and still could be in real trouble. They're only 3 points off the relegation zone. They've got a minus 16 goal difference. Patrick Vieira getting sacked. Talk of Roy Hodgson coming back in, probably till the end of the season. Paddy McCarthy's in there at the moment. He's the deputy. But the Crystal Palace, it's mad how they can go out and get a draw against Liverpool, and then they come up against Arsenal at the Emirates, and they get absolutely trounced. The boy Saka was sublime as well at the weekend as well. Goals on 43 and 74. And Granit Xhaka, what a goal he picked up on 55 as well. What a season Granit Xhaka is having at the moment. It's incredible the job that Arteta has done in turning that guy around. Any other manager would have shown him the door. And I think he deserves plaudits for that. I don't think he gets enough plaudits in terms of what's happened with Granit Xhaka. Absolutely incredible player this season. Schlupp got the consolation on 63, but at that stage, Arsenal were well out of the gate at this stage. Opened up an 8-point gap on Man City. Man City do have a game in hand. And Man City, their first game back, of course, is against Liverpool on April Fool's Day. And again, another dreaded lunchtime kickoff there at the Etihad, so I'm not expecting a huge amount from that. And then, of course, we've got Chelsea midweek that week at the Bridge, and then we entertain Arsenal on Anfield, which I think is going to be a huge game. And you wouldn't put it by Arsenal righting the wrongs that's been there over the previous seasons with the way their season is going. Let's round it out. A couple of fixtures in the FA Cup to go through. One of the games of the weekend for me, Sheffield United versus Blackburn Rovers. What a game this was. Brayton Diaz, one that Darren always talks about, this guy that he should be getting a move up into the Premier League. Scores a penalty on 21. Gallagher with an OG on 28. McBurney on 81. After Blackburn had taken the lead, I think they were 2-1 up heading into the last 10 minutes of the game. And then McBurney on 81 made it 2-2. And then Doyle in injury time, 90+1, crops up 3-2 to Sheffield United. I was looking at most of this game and I thought it was nailed on for Blackburn. But I have to say, fair play to Sheffield United coming back like that and going through and booking a semi-final place against Man City in the Cup. Brighton versus Grimsby. This is one I spoke to Darren about this. I thought this would be, you could go minus whatever you want in the handicap on this one. And this is kind of how it panned out. Undev with the first goal on 6 minutes. Evan Ferguson with a cracker on 51. Just nice and neat control. And scored another one on 70 as well. Alexis McAllister with the first assist and Undev with the second. Solly March came on, got the fourth. and Matoma got the 5th, beating Grimsby 5-0. No disrespect to Grimsby, and hats off to them. Deserved plaudits getting all the way through to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. Fantastic achievement by them, and I hope they earned a nice few bob on the way as well. But this Brighton team just doing things this season as well. Sitting there in 7th at the moment. 3 games in hand on Spurs. 7 points off them. This is going to be a mad top 4 race and title race and relegation battle this season. But absolutely phenomenal. And then a game of madness. Let's talk about this game of madness at the moment. Manchester United versus Fulham. Fulham doing fantastic things in this game, fully in control of the game at times, creating chances and all. Took the lead deservingly on 50 minutes with Mitrovic. But then a moment of madness, just ball played in, goes for a shot. Willian handles the ball. I don't think there's any dispute about that, to be honest. A lot of people were talking about the ball came off the tie and up onto the hand and all. For me, it was a handball. Gets a red card. Referee goes over and reviews it on the telly, on the VAR screen. Marco Silva goes absolutely ballistic. He gets a red card. Willian gets a red card. Then Mitrovic pushes the ref and he gets a red card. So 3 red cards in the space of 2 minutes. And then Bruno Fernandes steps up, slots the penalty home to make it 1-1. Sabitzer on 77 makes it 2-1. Really difficult for Fulham then to get out and out of this. They were so in control up to 70 minutes and just imploded. And then Bruno Fernandes on 90+6 sealed at 3-2, but it was sealed even at 2-1 with Fulham down to 9 men. Bad news for Fulham this in terms of their season. They were flying, having a great season, 39 points, 27 games, doing great things in the league, performing really well, playing good football. Had been getting a little bit tired in recent weeks. This was an FA Cup game. It was a chance to get into the semi-final. But just to face Brighton, but just couldn't control it really. Just lost control. Just a moment of madness, but very unfortunate for them. So that was your semi-finals then for the FA Cup sorted out. So Sheffield United will play Man City, and Man United will play Brighton. So we could have an all Manchester final in the FA Cup potentially. So interesting stuff there. That is your roundup of the weekend. You can see there in the table, Arsenal 8 points clear of Man City with a game in hand. Top 4 races totally condensed up. It could be anyone's at this stage. You're going from anywhere from Brentford up to United fighting it out at the moment for 2 spots, I think, at this stage. But we'll see what happens. It depends on the games coming up. Games on hand and various things like that doesn't necessarily always translate into points. That has been your roundup. Let's get into some of the topics that came out of that. Certainly an interesting one. Mendy has been told that he can leave Chelsea, and this is something I did a short on this, I think, today. Obviously you've got Mendy there, and you've also got Kepa. But I suppose the situation that falls out is one Mendy leaving, so they're going to have to bring in another keeper. But the second situation that remains there as well, which is an interesting one, is the new keeper they're going to bring in. Are they potentially bringing in a number 1, or are they bringing in a number 2? Will Kepa retain the number 1 spot and they'll bring in a number 2? Or will they bring in a number 1 spot and Kepa will go back to number 2? That's the real question that comes out of that. We're hearing as well that Anthony Martial is going to be moved on in the summer as well. No surprise there as well. I don't think Eric Ten Hag is the kind of manager that suffers fools gladly. And I think with what he's trying to achieve there, he's going to need players that can play, 30+ games a season or more. So Martial would not fit into that. Other news coming in, of course, Liverpool sporting director Julian Ward, we knew he was leaving at the end of the season, but he has sealed a deal to take up a similar role with Ajax, which to me is going to be bewildering that you can do that, really, that, within that quick space turnaround time, you can move from one club to another and bring all those kind of secrets with you. Yourself, if you move from one tech company to another, there's kind of rules around that, as they say. But however, we wish Julian Ward good luck in his new role at Ajax. And it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out in the summer for Liverpool. Let's talk about Conte's outburst. Let me know what you thought about Conte's outburst. Went absolutely ballistic on the players. No spirit. Players are selfish. There's no team there at Spurs. Same owners for 20 years. No trophies. What you're thinking on the outburst was, I mean, obviously, he didn't say anything that no one thought already, but he kind of tried to absolve himself of any responsibility as well, really, which was kind of weird. And then later on came out and said the outburst was more about the players; it wasn't really about the owners and stuff like that. But we know that the guy is pushing; he's pushing to be sacked and leave with a few quid potentially during this international break. But Spurs aren't going to do that, I'd imagine, because he's going, I think, in the summer anyway. I think his contract is up, so why would they pay him a whole heap of money to go within 2.5 months of his contract being up and stuff like that? Would be a silly move. And I suppose the only thing about that is, are you potentially sacrificing top four by not making that decision? And how much is that worth to the club in terms of attracting players and the financial rewards of the Champions League, as opposed to paying off Conte X amount of millions to go early? So I suppose that's the decision that we made. I suppose the difficulty really, and it's a difficulty that we've seen in the Premier League this season, when managers get fired, there's not a lot of top level, top quality managers out there. You've seen how long it took Wolves. We've seen Leeds, Southampton. Now don't get me wrong. I think Spurs would be an attractive one. There's talk of maybe Poch might go back. Who knows? So let's see what happens at Spurs. But I don't see Conte being there post this season. I think there's a lot of damage has been done in there in terms of relationship and stuff like that. And we've seen even when he was ill and he wanted to recover, he stayed in Italy to recover and stuff like that. And he handed over the shekels of Spurs to his number two and stuff like that. So it's kind of like he's made it clear he doesn't really want to be there, So, but it was certainly an interesting outburst, and it was heartfelt, and it was from deep down in the bowels of Antonio Conte where that outburst came, because he was absolutely livid. So yeah, interesting there from Antonio Conte. Wolves coming out saying they're resigned to losing 50 million rated midfielder Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves has been a target now for a number of transfer windows at this stage from a number of top level clubs in the Premier League. And potentially whatever happens in the relegation battle, if Wolves were to go down, certainly you would see a number of those players now being cherry picked out of that team by top level players. Mateus Nunes, Cunha, Ruben Neves, number of players there that would definitely come out. So yeah, I think maybe with Ruben Neves, he's been there long enough now, and it's probably time to move him on and cash in on him anyway. He's been there for a while at Wolves. It's been a real struggle at times, but he's a quality player. I know United are interested in him. I know Liverpool were linked with him. Certainly be a heck of a player for Chelsea. Who knows? Maybe even Man City might look at strengthening their midfield, but certainly he would be attractive to a number. Dare I say Tottenham? Mo Salah's agent, Rami Abbas, has poured cold water on the suggestion that the Liverpool forward will prefer a Spain move if he leaves Anfield. This is the kind of communication we want coming out at the moment, isn't it? Especially when the guy is showed up at times this season and put some statistics on the board, but really by his level has had a poor season. But lots of stuff coming out today from Liverpool and stuff like that. We'll probably hit a Liverpool show during the week. Also, don't forget, mark your diaries. Dynamo's dozen tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. We'll be going down through the road to WrestleMania 39 and all the latest pro wrestling news. We take a look back at pro wrestling history for the week that it is, and we will drop some notable birthdays, but some interesting stuff there. A couple of more matches declared, and one or two more Hall of Fame announcements. So join me tomorrow night on Dynamo's Dozen, 8 o'clock for your weekly dose of pro wrestling. I also think I'll have a bonus show on Thursday as well on Dynamo's Dozen. We have a guy on as a guest at 7:30. Kenny Noble is his name. He spent the last 3 years putting together a book about WrestleMania. And we're going to talk about that book and what's in it and stuff like that, and give you details as well. We're going to have a book launch in the shop in Wrestling Mania, and Kenny will be on hand as well to sign copies of the book and stuff like that. Fantastic chap. Should be a great interview. He's done all the artwork himself for the book and everything and all. That's why it took so long, in his own words. Looks absolutely fantastic, and if you're a wrestling fan, it's well worth getting a copy of this book. The links will be in the show and everything and all for buying the book and all that kind of good stuff. So join me Thursday 7:30 for a bonus Dynamo's Dozen show. Of course, Thursday 9 o'clock as well. It'll be 9:15 actually this week. Darren just reminded me, 9:15 this week. Thursday tier talk, kind of a different Thursday tier talk. What we're going to do is we're going to go. We're going to have a real good detailed look at the title race, the top 4 race, and the relegation battle. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it like a kind of a call-in show as well. So if you fancy coming on to talk about something, share a view with us, whatever it is, if you want to come on for a couple of minutes, we will share the link in the chat. And anyone who wants to come on, they can pop on. They can ask Darren any questions they want. They can ask me any questions that they want. Get a view on any topic they want. So Thursday's Tier Talk show will be more like a kind of a call-in show, because we don't have to preview really any action for the weekend. And as people know following this channel, international football is kind of really not our flavour. So there you go. We're also hearing today Manchester United have been dealt a blow in their pursuit of Frankie de Jong. It looks like he's pledging his allegiance to Barcelona. Now, that might all change, because we know Barcelona are in a little bit of trouble at the moment and find themselves in a financial situation where they have to unload again. And the serious money that needs to be unloaded. So it'd be some of the bigger key stars that might have to be moved on. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. Talk about Gavi, obviously Frankie de Jong, as always spoke about, but a number of other players as well. So we'll see how true that is when Man United test their mettle on Frankie de Jong in this summer transfer window coming up. We spoke about the departure in the summer. It looks like that's on the cards for Anthony Martial. I think United, in fairness to them, I think they've been really, really good to Anthony Martial. I think he's just one of those guys that his body language would drive me insane, on his facials and stuff like that. He just doesn't look like he cares. I'm sure he does. He's been blighted with injuries and stuff like that. We know on his day he's a fantastic player. We've seen it. Look, I felt it firsthand as a Liverpool fan. He's done stuff to us. But I just think at this stage now it's really time that they part company. I think United have been incredibly committed to the player and done him a service, really. But I think it's as far as they can bring it. Former Liverpool star Lucas Leiva was forced to retire from football there the other day because of a heart condition. So glad that they found the heart condition, and delighted that he's retiring, and that something more serious didn't happen. He made 346 appearances for the Reds over 10 years at Anfield. We love Lucas Leiva, and we never forget players that move on. But they were recalling at time. Gerrard obviously sent him a lovely message when he got the news and stuff like that, and he was inundated with messages from the football world. But Gerrard recalled a time where he was I think he was on holidays in Dubai. I think it was. This was right after Gerrard had left Liverpool on the back of that horrendous Stoke result, if you remember. What a way for him to bow out, you know. But Lucas knocked on his door and came in, and he had a gift for him. He had gotten him a gift, a silver salver, and on the silver salver, it said, and it's beautiful to read. He says, "We often hear the expression, 'there will never be another.' In your case, my friend, it is most definitely the case. A captain, leader, and a legend in every sense of the word. Every moment I've spent on the pitch with you has been a privilege. The very best to you and your family with all your future endeavours, Lucas Leiva." And I just thought that was quite touching. This is what he presented to Gerrard back then, you know. So it was quite emotional to see Gerrard going back to him with this news coming out and stuff like that. So, but I just thought it was a lovely story and a lovely touch there from Gerrard. So yeah, and listen, 100% agree with it all. Chelsea in the news again this week as well, weighing up a new $2 billion stadium, where not a new stadium, but where they're going to try and redevelop Stamford Bridge We know the difficulties that entail that, but obviously it has to develop to a much bigger crowd and stuff like that. But they would face 4 years away from Stamford Bridge to do this redevelopment, because to me it sounds like this development has to start right from the foundation up, basically. It's not a very simple situation where you're going to put tiers on top of. If you're familiar with Stamford Bridge, I mean, obviously you've got the railway that runs underneath it. You've got all the other stuff with the ownership of the pitch. And then you've got, I think, social housing on one side. And on the other side, I think there's a cemetery, which kind of, it's very, very difficult to redevelop. Not redevelop, but to develop the current Stamford Bridge, if you like. So my guess is they would tear it down and rebuild it up again, but on the same site. I'm not too sure Chelsea fans would like the thoughts of going elsewhere, so I presume they want to stay there, but they'll have to put on their architectural hats in terms of redeveloping Stamford Bridge, but definitely something that has to happen. But it'll be interesting to see. They have been looking at potentially going for 4 years. One to Craven Cottage, which would be an interesting move, and the other one is Twickenham. I don't know whether the Twickenham move would be a good one, you know. When I think of the Twickenham move, I think of that, you know, maybe they can do something in terms of reducing that space to the pitch to get that kind of atmosphere and stuff like that. But then you're going to think maybe Twickenham might be too big and Craven Cottage would be way too small. So I don't know what way that would work, but that's they've been looking at a number of different options. But good to hear that as part of the takeover and stuff like that, that they are progressing on the things they spoke about: training ground, squad, investment, redevelopment of Stamford Bridge, all this kind of stuff. So you have to give them their flowers in terms of that. But we do need to talk about the other side of this now, whereas Todd Boehly's reaction when leaving the ground the other night. He was asked about the game, and he said it was a shit fucking game. Very clear, very precise, and just kept on walking, didn't stop, clearly wasn't happy. Pressure somewhat back on Potter again. They had been getting a couple of good results, and certainly did very well in the Champions League, although they've a tough draw against Real Madrid. But yeah, Boehly was not happy at all. And that leads us nicely into, let's talk about the Champions League draw. So we haven't really spoke about it after last Friday. I normally will come on and do a show for that, but it's kind of St. Patrick's Day, and you know, you kind of like busy doing other things, let's say. So Champions League draw ended up Real Madrid versus Chelsea, Bayern Munich versus Man City. Two of those four will meet each other in the semi-final. Very, very tough side of the draw there. You've arguably got, with the exception of Napoli, you've got the top four teams really in all on that side of the draw. Yeah, and then on the other side, AC Milan versus Napoli. That's an intriguing one, all Italian affair, and Inter on the other side as well. So, be interesting to see who's going to go through there. If I had to make a pick, are we thinking a Real Bayern semi-final? And I think Napoli will go all the way through to the final on their side. When you look at that AC Milan side, although they put Tottenham out, they're not a great side. And Napoli have their measure all this season if you look at Serie A. So I think you could be looking at a Napoli. Can you rule City out? I don't know. I'll have to have a think about it. I'm not too sure what way that's going to go. I'm kind of thinking Bayern Napoli. But I'm not ruling Man City out yet. You can't rule out, you know, Erling Haaland. You know, if they can keep him fit and he doesn't get injured and he's available for the games, I'm not ruling Man City out yet. And especially with the Bundesliga connection there with Erling Haaland, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, all that kind of thing. Haaland will be well up for it. He looks like he's going to do stuff. But I do think, say Bayern Man City and Napoli on the other side. I'm sure Napoli's going to get to the final. I think they're just playing too good football at the moment. Let's have a look at the Europa. If you look at the Europa League, you've got United versus Sevilla, Juventus versus Sporting, Bayer Leverkusen versus Union, and then your Feyenoord versus Roma. So you're probably looking at, I'm going to put it out there, semi-final on the left-hand side, you're going to look at United versus Sporting, I think. I'm not sure whether Juventus will do enough over 2 legs to get past Sporting. I think Sporting, they'll be hyped up after that penalty shootout against Arsenal. And it's mad, we could have got United Arsenal in the semi there if I had a worked out something. But you're going to have United and Sporting. But I think United might have enough then over. United might have enough in the semi against Sporting. So I'm going to go for a Manchester United Roma final, and the Mourinho effect. That's going to be very intriguing. So that's what I'm thinking for the Europa League. Manchester United to get to the final against Roma, with Jose Mourinho, of course, going ballistic. You could see him on the night in that final and all, couldn't you? And really one. I mean, he'd love to put one over United, of course, but I don't know. It'd be hard to see past. United at the moment. It is Europa League. There's a steeliness and a consistency about them. Obviously, we can see what happens when Casemiro isn't around, but he'll be around for this. Sevilla are way off it this year. I think when I looked at it today, they're down on 14th or something like that in La Liga. They've gone way down over the last couple of seasons. Juventus, a lot of internal problems and stuff going on there at Juventus. Whether those players could really focus on a Europa League semi-final or quarter-final, I do not know. Sporting, it would mean a lot more to them, of course. Union, of course, did a good job on Berlin, who I think were second in the Bundesliga. I don't know if they're still second in the Bundesliga, but I know they were having a breakout season. Feyenoord and Roma, I think Roma over 2 legs would have enough for them. Mourinho, he's kind of like, tactically just knows his stuff, doesn't he, to frustrate you. Leverkusen is kind of the dark horse in there. I think they're being managed by Xavi Alonso at the moment, are they? Who's been touted as potentially could take over Liverpool from Jurgen Klopp when he leaves. Now, that would be interesting, Xavi Alonso going back to Liverpool. That is something I could get behind. But that's really a breakdown for the 2 European trophies left. So yeah, folks, that's really it. Quick for a show. Really enjoyed it. As I said, if you're looking at it on the replay, smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, share out the content and hit the bell notification. Like I said, tomorrow night, 8 p.m, Dynamo's Dozen, the road to WrestleMania 39 continues with your weekly dose of pro wrestling news, gossip, opinion. We'll also take a look back at history and notable birthdays. Thursday, we'll have a bonus Dynamo's Dozen where Kenny Noble's going to be joining me. He's after writing a book on WrestleMania, did all the artwork, as I told you earlier. Should be a great interview. You'll have we'll show some of the slides of it and stuff like that. The artwork is outrageous. Did it all himself. And then 9:15, myself and Dazzler will be back on your screens on Thursday. As I said, more of a call-in show. So anyone who wants to come on the show to chat, give their opinion. We're going to be talking about title race. We're going to be talking about top 4. We're going to be talking about relegation battle. We will get Darren's views on the Champions League draw and where he sees it going, see if he matches what I said. And we'll also be talking about the Europa League as well. Very, very important. And of course, all the madness that ensued over the weekend as well. I'm sure Darren will give us his opinion on that as well. Until next time, folks, an absolute pleasure. Stay safe. Hope you had a good weekend. If you were enjoying Paddy's Day, hope you enjoyed the festivities. These weekends, they go too quick now at this stage. Time just flying by as we move on towards the end of the season. Until next time, folks, a pleasure. Talk to you real soon.